it'll also keep us from getting so hurt. Yeah, we will still get hurt, but when we begin to understand the hurt doesn't hurt as much. Now turn with me to 2 Corinthians chapter 11. And it says here, 11 verses 14. And it says here, let's look at verses 13. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And he's talking about false teachers and preachers. But then look what he says, verse 14. And no wonder they do that. Why? For Satan himself, he transforms himself. He transforms himself into an angel of light. Watch this. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers shall also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, whose end will be according to the works. So he's talking about, false preachers and teachers who transform themselves. They're really being energized by Satan, and they're really being energized by demonic activity. That's what he means by his ministers, his demons, those who work for Satan. And he says here that they transform themselves into ministers of righteousness. And not only that, but people do too. Satan gets into people and they transform themselves into your friends. They transform themselves into somebody that got your back. They transform themselves into somebody that loves you. When I'm telling you, when in all actuality, they are they are being used by Satan to ruin you, to get you in a place where you cannot recover. But I just want to tell you, every time Satan tries that, God, because he's faithful and because he loves you, and greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world, God will send somebody to walk alongside you, somebody that will walk with you, somebody that will truly have your back, somebody that will pray for you, somebody that will be on your side in the midst of what Satan is trying to do for you. I want to tell you, the devil is sent here, or not sent here, but the devil is here, and he wants to devour you, and he does not fight fair. He does not. So just get used to it. He does not fight fair. So how do the devil destroy you and I? How, when he attacks you and I, what happened? Well, the devil uses external situations or circumstances to gain access to the battlefield, which is your mind. That's what the devil does. He uses external situations such as finances, relationships, friends, family. He uses external things. Why? Because he wants to gain access to the battlefield. And I'm going to tell you this. The battlefield is in your mind. That's where it's at. That's where Satan does his best work. If he could kill us physically, he would, but he can't. So what he do? He try to roar. What does roar does? Remember I say it throws you into a state of panic and it causes confusion. Where is confusion at? It's in your mind. And once it's in your mind, then it works itself out throughout your actions of us doing the wrong thing, saying the wrong thing, being in the wrong place. Why? But it starts all in your mind. And that's where the battlefield, brothers and sisters, is in your mind. That's why Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2 says, I beseech ye, brothers, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be ye not conformed, but transformed by what? By the renewing of your mind. Why? Because that's where the battle's at. The battle is in your mind. And everything that the devil can steal, everything that the devil tries to take, everything that the devil tries to get you to give up, I'm going to tell you this. It originates in your mind. It does. It originates in your mind. That's where the battlefield is at. It's in, trust me, it's in your mind. He's going to attack your mind. And he's going to use external circumstances. He's going to use that man He's going to use that woman. He's going to use that job. He's going to use that bank. He's going to use your, believe it or not, he's going to use your children. He's going to use whatever he can to throw your mind into a state of confusion. Why? Because in a state of confusion, you are going to make the wrong decision. And once you make the wrong decision, then you open yourself up to be devoured. And if he can ruin you to the point where you have no chance of hope or recovery, that is the end goal, to devour you. But he has to confuse you first. And that's where the battlefield at. The battlefield is not the person, trust me. These people are not that smart. Your family's not that smart. Your friends are not that smart. You know, the situations that you're dealing with is all have to do with your mind. So I just want to let you know that this morning, that you are going to deal with a satanic attack at one point or another. And I guarantee you, he ain't worried about your money, but he'll use your money to mess with your mind. He ain't worried about your relationship, but he'll use your relationship to mess with your mind. He ain't worried about your son, but he'll use your son or your daughter to mess with your mind. That's what he does. Your mind is the battlefield. That's where everything takes place, and that's why Romans tells us that we need to renew our mind, keep our mind. The Bible says that if you keep your mind stayed on Jesus, he'll keep your mind, in perfect peace. Why? Because the mind is the battlefield. Now, guess what? Back to Philippians 4 and 6. Back to Philippians 4 and 6. Here in our text this morning, we find two women that are in the church that are having, again, they are under a satanic attack. You know, one by the name of Euodia and the other by the name of Syntyche. And it's here in chapter 4, verse 1. Verse 2, Paul says, I implore Euodia and I implore Syntyche to be of the same mind in the Lord. In some other versions, it said to stop arguing, to be at peace with one another. So Satan has crept into their relationship, these two women, and they're at each other's throats, not realizing that what they're dealing with stems from or comes from or is influenced by Satan, that he was able to get into their minds. And then Paul gives the remedy to the church in Philippi. He says, tell them to be of the same mind. What? The mind in the Lord. In other words, if they're going to deal with this attack that is coming from Satan, they need to change the way that they're thinking. They need to renew their mind. They need to have the same mind that Jesus had. That even though she did you wrong, I'm going to do good to those who spitefully use me. And even though that this person did you wrong, I'm still going to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not to my own understanding. See, you have to have your mind right, because that's what Satan has come after. And when Satan attacks you, now remember here in Philippians 4 and 6, Satan wants to attack you. He's going to roar to throw you into a state of confusion. And when he does that, he produces what is called anxiousness. And Paul says here in Philippians 4 and 6, be anxious for nothing. That's what he says here. Be anxious for nothing. In other words, that word anxiousness is a state of the mind and spirit. It is an extreme uneasiness of the mind, brooding fear about what might happen. Another word for this anxiousness is worrying. In other words, Paul says that when the enemy comes after you, he's going to roar. He's going to try to throw your mind into a state of confusion. And then what? Fear will begin to creep in. Fear that you might not have enough. Fear that you might not make it. Fear that this is going to happen, that that's going to happen, even though it hasn't happened. But we begin to fear. And then guess what's going to happen next? We're going to lose our faith. I'm telling you, this is what the enemy's doing. He's trying to, as we say, he's trying to blow your mind, you know. And I ain't talking about in a good way, I'm talking about in a bad way. He's trying to make you lose your mind, you know. And they saying that song, I'm going to lose my mind up in here. No, I ain't singing that because I ain't trying to lose my mind. I'm trying to keep my mind. And I'm going to keep my mind if I keep it stayed on Christ Jesus. And Paul says here, be anxious for nothing. You cannot allow anxiousness. I'm going to tell you, anxiousness is like the warning light that's on a car. Anxiousness is the check engine light. It tells you something's wrong. That's what anxiousness is. Anxiousness is a warning light to you. It tells you that you are about to lose your faith. You are about to lose your confidence. You are about to go. You are about to walk away from the herd. You are about to walk away from Jesus. You are about to walk away from all that he provided for you. Anxiousness is, we have to use that as the warning light to tell you, pull your car over, lift up the hood, check under the hood because something wrong. And here's the good thing about the warning light or the check engine light. It is designed to warn you before the car breaks. You know, the minute your check engine light come on, you should get it to the garage. You should get it to the mechanic that he can put it on a machine and that he can diagnose what is wrong with the car and fix it. Guess what? Before you're stranded. Before you left on the side of the road, before you're in a position where it's going to cost you more than it would had you took care of the problem once the check engine light came on. Now, there's some people who will see that check engine light and they'll keep driving. Oh, that don't mean nothing. I'll just drive. And they say, well, just check engine light on. Oh, well, it's always on. Okay. You know, they put it on there for a reason. And if you don't get that thing checked out, pretty soon or later, at the most inopportune time, when you need your car the most, when you're on your way to a graduation, when you're on your way to a wedding, when you're on your way to a job interview, that car is going to break down on you. Why? Because we ignored the check engine light. And anxiousness to you and I is a check engine light. It tells you that fear is trying to creep in. It tells you that you're about to lose your faith and you're about to lose your confidence in the Word of God. It tells you, pull over, stop what you're doing, let's get this thing right. We cannot allow the light of anxiousness to continue to stay on in our mind. We just cannot allow that. Because guess what? If we allow anxiousness to persist, what's going to happen is we're going to begin to fear. And after fear creeps in, it's going to tell us, or it's going to enable us, to trust God. That's why the Bible says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. And guess what? If I can't trust God, now I can't rest in God. Turn with me real quick to Hebrews chapter 4. Hebrews chapter 4. And it says here in verse 1, therefore, since a promise remains of entering his rest, here we go. Let us not fear, lest any of you seem to have come short of it. For indeed, the gospel was preached to us as well as them. Here we go now. But the word which they heard did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in those who heard it. Why wasn't it mixed with faith? Because